Hey everybody, this is Zack, just here with some quick housekeeping and State of the Union updates for everybody before we get started with this week's episode. If you did not see, we have a pair of schedule changes, both coming in the month of November, games 6 and 7. So we will not be playing on the Friday and Saturday of that weekend anymore. So not playing on the 17th or the 18th, which we were initially planned to. We will be moving those games to Thursday the 16th and Sunday the 19th. That's games 6 and 7 in your booklets. Of course, with the game changing from Saturday to Sunday, that is now a 4:05 puck drop on Sunday, November the 19th. That Thursday game on November 16th is still a 7:05 puck drop as well. Kids Day game coming in right off the hop pretty quick as well, November 2nd, so don't forget that that's a 10:35 puck drop in the morning. Seen some questions about preseason game tickets. We'll have a link for sale coming up here very soon for the preseason game that'll be taking place at the Oilers Ice Center at 7 o'clock on the 14th of October. And on top of all of that, we also have some brand new merchandise to check out in the store, both football and hockey. Close things out. The Wee Street Ice Center still on pace to be open at the end of 2023, so late 2023 we will have the Wee Street Ice Center open. The closure of the Promenade Mall has not affected that project at all on our end. We're really excited to get that going. We just announced Puck's Sports Bar and Grill opening up stairs. That'll be a wonderful restaurant and full bar service upstairs at the new Wee Street Ice Center, which will be located at 4143 South Yale Avenue. That's enough for the updates. Let's get into the show. Welcome into the first Pipeline Podcast episode of the 2023-24 season. I'm Zack Reynolds alongside by Luke Hamilton and Oilers head coach Rob Murray as we get going here with camp just around the corner. And obviously the offseason, it always feels long at the beginning and then kind of rapidly kind of closes down. But overall, how was your summer and the off season in general for you?
My summer was good. I think recruiting this past summer, I wouldn't want to say it was better or easier, but I should say better to begin with. But I found that it was the same. It was a lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations with players and agents, and doing your due diligence to get the information about players and different things. But it's always the same. It seems to really be slow at the beginning of the summer because everybody's looking for an American League deal, and so you're kind of put on the back burner for a while, and then you kind of got to wait these guys out. When those American League deals don't come along, then there's the next option is to obviously play at our level. So overall, it's been a really good summer. We got a couple of guys signed early. I know you announced Ryan Olsen yesterday, but Ole's been signed for about 2 months now. So he's been. He was done very earlier in the summer, and really excited to get him coming in to play for the Oilers.
Yeah, it seems like when September rolls around every year, for players and for coaches, everything seems to be much more of a reality for sure. Conversations with players really kind of once that month of September hits, do they kind of change on a dime a little bit? Of course, there's a little bit more pressure on the players to figure out, hey, where are my options at? Am I playing the game too long to where my options are going to run out? And even coaches as well. That process of high market free agents start to fade away. And what's the month of September been like for you just really recently here?
Well, September is, just recently it's been. I think I've gotten more guys done in the last couple of weeks, but again, it wasn't that they weren't going to get done. It was just once again, it was the waiting game, right? And like a guy like Tag Bertuzzi, there's a name that I'm sure the fans are like what's going on? Why is he not coming back? And we have we have agreed to a contract. He has not been signed yet. The contract's out to be signed, but there's a guy that is a good example of a guy that's kind of waited all summer long for something bigger and better, and it hasn't come along. But with the way that this league works, we own his rights. He really can't just pick and choose where he wants to go. And I'm not saying he doesn't want to come back here. He was hoping for an American League deal, and that didn't come through. And now we're getting him under our umbrella once again. And there's a guy that probably I would imagine people are suspicious of what's going on with Tag Bertuzzi. I mean, there's a guy that was a really good player for us last season, but there's a good example of what a guy that I've been talking to or communicating with between himself or his agent all summer long, that we are just getting it done now, third week of September. So, it was a good example.
Talk about the recruitment, and every year, you're having to bring in lots of new players, and I guess, the recruitment, it's got its different caveats each summer. But this year, a new kind of, I guess, weapon in the arsenal is the fact that, the Wee Street Ice Center will be open here late in 2023. Of course, a dedicated practice facility. The offices are all there. But with the new building and the renderings, how much of that has been a conversation when talking with players about coming here and just kind of showing them that there's obviously a direction that the team and ownership are going, and it's about providing a better experience for players as well.
Well, I think in general, without a doubt, it's a huge advantage, a tool for me to use, and when you're recruiting at this level, it's always who's gonna. You can't lie. Like if you had your choice, you might want to go to a Florida team, right? Because it's Florida, and you got the beaches and whatnot. I think Tulsa's always been a great destination point, but the word hasn't necessarily got out. Or I think it's players that play here as a visiting team that they see the BOK Center, they see the city itself, and that's attractive. But it's just another bullet in your gun when now we're going to have a practice facility that will rival, in my eyes, any NHL practice facility out there. And when you have that, it's just a great recruiting tool for me going forward. Now, I can't say, as we know, it's not going to be done at the beginning of training camp here, but hopefully it'll be done soon after. And we'll be in there and all ready to go and be there majority of the time at the practice facility. But that definitely is something that you can really kind of hang your hat on, and because what other teams can offer as far as practice facilities, nobody even comes close, and will not come close to what we are going to provide. So that is a great asset to me. To kind of put out there, and we put a scouting package together that we send to the players, and within that it shows the renderings, the pictures of Wee Street, and what is yet to come, and how the game of hockey in general is going to grow in the city of Tulsa and in Oklahoma, and for the most part.
Yeah, I think looking at the renderings of the Wee Street Ice Center, fans are, of course, excited about it for a lot of different reasons, right? I mean, there's going to be spaces for every type of fan there, but just having you on the podcast now, getting closer to the season, I think you hit the nail on the head. Fans need to recognize just how much this new building is going to affect free agents coming here, a better product on the ice, a better experience for fans, a better experience for everybody within that building, and that can sometimes be step one for recruiting a player, step 5, step 6, who knows, but of course this offseason is certainly about rebuilding and finding a different product on the ice to find a way to bounce back this season. And is there anything that maybe utilizing the new building can help you emphasize some things you've seen in the offseason from other teams, the NHL? Maybe what's that emphasis going into that rebuild process that might be a trend around the league?
I don't know how much of a trend it is around the league yet. We purposely, right off the hop, after our exit meetings in April, Scott and I both said, I mean, we got to make some big changes here, and it's, you don't have to be a genius to figure that one out. We did not put a good product on the ice last year. There are multiple different reasons. I'm not making any excuses whatsoever. We need to be better, and we realize that, and I realize it. I mean, you can't get mired in mediocrity and just expect it to get better all the time. And so we have a core of guys that we feel confident or comfortable with, that we thought were decent players for us last year. We needed to improve in a lot of areas, and I think on paper we've done that. I think with a renewed agreement with Anaheim and my agreements with them to provide more players for us through contracts at the American League and NHL level, is coming to fruition. I mean, we were in a situation where at the best we had 3 guys last year, and come trade deadline, we kind of got the short end of the stick there, and they know it, and it was a higher up decision to make those trades, and we didn't get anything back. So on one day we have Nyhoff and Golod. Next day, the last guy we got is McLaughlin, like the one player. Now, Mac was a great player. I would say consistently our best player all season long. So, but if you look at you don't have to go any further than look around the league. I mean, you're playing Idaho where they've got 11 to 12 contracted guys from Texas every night, and you wonder why they had such a good year last year. Well, they were a good hockey team. That's why. And coaching aside, if I think I've said this in a podcast before. I remember talking to a football coach at the University of Rhode Island, and he said, if their X's are better than your O's, there's nothing you can do. And we found that on multiple occasions last season where, we just didn't match up against the competition. That being said, with the free agents that we have signed, the guys that we've brought in, complemented with what we believe that should come down the pipe from San Diego, once again, on paper, we're looking a lot stronger, and that was our goal right off the hop. I mean, there was a couple of guys that it was hard decisions. I mean, it was these guys. A guy like Alex Crom. Alex Crom's landed on his feet. Like he has got himself a great spot in the USHL as an assistant coach, and I'm really proud of him. But we had to have that discussion at the beginning, midsummer, let's call it. That Scott and I had a meeting with him, and at that point I think he wanted to play again. But I told him, and you have to be blunt with these guys sometimes. And I love Alex Crum. We're good friends, and I love what he's brought to the team through the years. But the game has passed him by, and we weren't successful with guys like that, it's hard, but you have to cut the cord, and I'm just using Cromer as an example, but that's where we need to improve in different areas, and unfortunately, and I was lucky enough to play 16 years, but I mean, ended my career. I mean, yeah, the younger guys were taking my job, and that's just the way of the world. I mean, it's and that's how hockey, any sports, even in corporate world. I mean, they're demanding people to step away when they're 59, 60, and they probably can do the job just as well as the next guy. But we did not have a good season last season. And we need to be better, and so we put out, that was our goal this summer, to get better. And like I said, we have gotten agreements and promises from San Diego and Anaheim. I was just out there at their rookie tournament in Vegas a couple weekends ago, and it really does look, by the numbers at least, that we should be seeing a good group of guys that are coming down from them.
With the affiliation, and you brought it up, Idaho last year, a dozen guys on contracts. You just look at Newfoundland each year, and you just can go through the summer signings on the back end and see that they have way less players, and not waiting to announce guys because of visas or things like that, but just because they know they have 16 affiliated players probably coming through. And you mentioned now with San Diego potentially having just more help in that regard. You brought up going out to the showcase. And yeah, as you look at it now, Newfoundland, two guys on there?
Newfoundland has 2 guys signed this summer. 2 players.
Right.
And so, to your point, they rely on the Toronto Marlies and the Toronto Maple Leafs to provide them all the players that fill out the roster. And right now we have 20 guys signed. We have 5 tryout guys signed. You get Bertuzzi and still working on Cameron Saprika. That'll be 22 guys signed plus 5. So that's 27 guys. They won't all start camp because a few guys are going to American League camps, but you look at the rosters that we get delivered every Tuesday morning, which I just pulled up on my phone. Newfoundland has 2 guys signed. Like that's all they have signed for their whole team. And so you look at that and say, oh my God, they're not going to be able to put a team on the ice. Well, every other spot on their roster is going to be filled with a contract.
Right.
And so now that goes against my principles of recruiting. I was told first off when I first started coaching at this level is that you have to recruit during the summertime as if you don't have an affiliate, because you never know what you might or might not get from your affiliation. So, but the Newfoundland situation, it's been the same every summer. You're looking at their list going, they've only got 3 or 4 guys. This year, once again, 3rd week of September, we're a week and a half away from training camp. They've got 2 guys signed. So this leads to the conversation, or this goes back to what we're just talking about, is that I truly believe, and I know it through experience with my Kelly Cup winning team, our the help from Calgary at the time was our affiliate, made the difference, and we had a good core of ECHL players that got surrounded by these contracted guys from the Calgary organization. Abbotsford was their farm team at the time, and that made the difference, especially in playoff time. We ended up winning the Bram Cup that year, anyways, but that the Kelly Cup was, basically a guy like Turner Olsen and Zack McKelvey, and I mean I could go through the list of the guys that we got provided by Calgary. So in order to have success at this level, I really believe that you have to have a good relationship and good support from your affiliate. And I'm kind of repeating myself, but I do believe that we have that in place this year.
Yeah, speaking of camp, of course, everybody around the hockey world now is starting to, click on the links online, see who's on the training camp rosters for these NHL teams. Of course, we turn our attention to Anaheim. Their 2023 training camp roster, of course, has been released. It's going to be changing all the time now as we get closer to the regular season in the NHL. A guy like Blake McLaughlin, he's in that group 2, getting work, it seems, amongst the forwards, playing right wing. And what are some conversations that you've had with not only the development team in Anaheim, but of course the direct coaching staff? Of course, those roles are changed up a little bit as of the last few years. And maybe what is the philosophy that you're hearing, and maybe some of the plans for a guy like Blake McLaughlin with Anaheim?
Well, I don't have any. There's more numbers than names per se. Like when they say looks like we should get 3 defensemen and 3 to 4 forwards, potentially 2 goaltenders, and that's kind of the blueprint right now. The names will be filled obviously on performance. I would assume at training camp, be it at Anaheim's training camp, and then San Diego starts this weekend. That'll be determined through training camp. My opportunity to go to the rookie tournament in Vegas allowed me to meet not only Matt McIlvain, who's the new coach in San Diego, but also Greg Cronin. Greg Cronin and we knew each other from before. Matt, I was not familiar with. We had a couple of good conversations this summer, and then at the rookie tournament, spent some time with him. And he's a young guy. He's coached in the DL, the German top league, for a couple of years, but he's modest, which is great. Like he was picking my brain on a lot of things, because it's new to him. He's never coached at that level in North America, and I think he's going to do a great job. I really enjoyed talking to him, and I like getting to know him. Greg Cronin, like I said, I knew him from years ago, and then the new assistant coach, Brent Thompson. Tomer and I go way back. I mean, we've played together. I coached him. We're good friends, and nice to see him. And funny thing with Tomer, so he was in Alaska and he won the Kelly Cup, and then he got promoted or got the job in Bridgeport in the American Hockey League, and he picked up the phone, and I was at the time out of a job. He picked up the phone and told me that he was going to go to his ownership and kind of put my name on the list of guys to interview and look at to go up to Alaska, and he did me a favor because I got the job up there and had some really good success. Loved it in Alaska, but Tomer he'd been in Bridgeport ever since. He'd been the head coach in Bridgeport for 12 years, and then finally got his shot at the NHL and the American League. So he's a first-year assistant coach in the NHL, but that's the value of going to these rookie tournaments, because everybody's there. Be it scouts, management, coaching staffs, everybody is there, and I was able to, within the 4 days I was out there, really have a good chance to kind of have a chance to talk to everybody at a different time and about different things. The player development team. Ryan Getzlaff, Scott Niedermeyer, two guys I'd never met, and got to know them a little bit through this tournament. So it's a great value to go out and my conversation with San Diego for the most part. Rob DeMaio is the general manager. Bob Ferguson, who's kind of my point of contact through all the years, and Rob was not out there. He was actually scouting another tournament, but spent a lot of time with Bob Ferguson, and we're both on the same page as far as what not only helping us be a contender, being a good hockey team, but also allowing us to be able to develop their players, the guys that do find their way down to the ECHL from the San Diego Anaheim system. That eventually, when we've seen it, we've seen it 3 years. Guys have played here and eventually played in the NHL. It's not the end of the road if you get sent down here, and that's to me is the biggest shift in the mentality of the NHL teams, American League teams, about the ECHL now, is that they can use us as development. Not before, years ago, it used to be just you got the mistakes, they just wanted to bury a guy because they had no plans for that guy anymore. You know what I mean? He's still in their contract. Send him down to Tulsa. Let Rob have him. That's that. But now it's more of a depth situation where, they found themselves in a lot of trouble last year depth wise, just because they didn't have enough guys signed. So once again, I think from what I see and my conversations and what I see on paper, quite honestly, the guys that they have signed, they've signed a couple guys that we brought to them through the summertime that they put on American League deals that hasn't happened in the past with us. I always provide a list of players for them, but for the most part they never had signed these guys. But there's 3 guys definitely that we had brought to them that they ended up signing to American League deals that might might find their way down here. Maybe not for the whole season, but up and down and get some time with the Oilers.
We also opened up some questions to the fans. This question comes from Curtis Passmore. Last year we saw Colton Ellis come down from St. Louis. Obviously, they've kind of had an agreement with Worcester as well, but with the goaltending situation, is there still kind of a relationship there that you potentially see anybody coming from the Blues, and if not, maybe one of the other unaffiliated teams?
I have had conversations with St. Louis, actually, with Springfield. Kevin Maxwell is the general manager in Springfield, and they are looking to place. He's shown interest to place a goaltender here. It wouldn't be Colton Ellis. He's going to another, or I'm not even sure what Colton's up to, but as of right now, we have 2 goaltenders signed ECHL contracts, and like I said, I think there might be 2 guys coming from Anaheim, so I don't know that we would have any room for a goaltender from another affiliate. That being said, you never know what might happen. So I do have close contacts still with St. Louis and Springfield. The other thing that might happen, and I don't know for sure, I've had a lot of conversations with Wendell Young, who's the general manager of the Chicago Wolves. And for those that don't know, Chicago Wolves, every American Hockey League team is affiliated with an NHL team. Well, the Chicago Wolves this year had decided to go independent, and it's really out of thinking outside the box. Like they're going to be an independent team with no ECHL affiliation. So Wendell and I, I've opened the door for him if he needs to place any players. We would take them on, and he understands that. Whether that will happen or not, I'm not sure. Talking to him, I don't know that they're going to have too much overflow as far as, they're kind of going to be lean and mean type thing. But, they were affiliated with Carolina, and they decided to go independent, which is going to be, we'll see how it all works, but it's a different, it really is a different way to go about it, and it hasn't been done in the American League forever. And so, anyway, so that might be an opportunity for us to see other players from another organization. Now, when that being said, these will not be NHL contracted players. It'd be all American League contracted players. But the door's open for him, and I've known Wendell forever. Another guy that I've known for years, and we've always had a good relationship. He's given us a training camp spot for our French goalie, Julian Junca, and he'll be attending the Wolves training camp. So, but to answer his question, there's always that opportunity. Like Columbus, I know I had a conversation with them in the summertime. They do not have. They're not going with an ECHL affiliate, so there's another team that might be looking to place players somewhere.
Yeah, speaking of goaltending, I mean, the Anaheim situation is very interesting. I think, of course, John Gibson, you go all the way up to the top. He's been there forever. He's the guy, and he's a very instrumental part in that organization, right? I mean, he's got the veteran experience that allows conversations for young goaltenders to be blessed with in that regard, for sure. It goes all the way down to guys like Gage Alexander, who we saw a little bit last year. You talked about the potential of seeing goaltenders from Anaheim, from San Diego. Gage Alexander could potentially be one of those, and Pittsburgh traded, of course, with Anaheim at the deadline. Kale Klang comes into that situation as well. Plenty of options, it seems. What is your insight on maybe some options down here in Tulsa to get development?
Well, you're looking right now. You're looking at a tandem either of Gibson and Stalock at the NHL level, and or Gibson and Dostal, and so that's 3 right there that'll be in the NHL mix. I would assume Klang. He, like you said, they got him in a trade last year. Swedish kid. He's really good. We've seen Gage Alexander, and then they have a a guy on a tryout right now named Thomas Suchanek that there's been talk that he might find his way into the mix too. So that's you're looking at just by numbers. Again, you got the two guys in Anaheim. It'd be Stalock or Dostal, and one of those three guys in San Diego. So that's four. So if Suchanek was able to find his way onto a contract with Anaheim, he'd make six. So by the numbers, we should get two goaltenders from Anaheim. Goaltending's very fickle. I mean, injuries happen quite often. Different things this thing might happen. So you can't always, you can't always count on what you might get from the NHL. But as of right now, just by the numbers, we should get two guys, and it could be, once again, who it is, I don't know. You could get Gage and Suchanek, or you could get Klang and Suchanek, or any mixture really of what happens. And it could be a situation if they have six goaltenders where they kind of move them up and down, and so we might see a little bit of everything really. And but we also have our two guys signed at the ECHL level, because again, you just never know what you might or might not get. So you have to cover your bases.
Talked about improving on paper and wanting a different product on the ice this season, and I'll kind of merge a couple of questions that Curtis has and one that I have myself. And what this summer seems that you're bringing in some experienced pieces to kind of solidify the room. What's the overall philosophy coming into recruitment this off season, and how is that shaping out, and what's kind of the identity you want to see out of this team?
Well, I mean, identity is, I don't know. I think it's a overused word. Like Scott and I were talking earlier in the summer, and you get into training camps, and then you're given a training camp T-shirt, and there's usually a saying on the back. You know what I mean? Like some goofy statement that's going to be our identity, right? And I think that we're looking at this year. We're going to allow our guys, without spoon feeding them what we want them to be. I think that'll take care of itself, and we'll find our identity. Like I can say we want to be hard to play against. We want to play fast. We want to do this. We want to do that. Well, you know what? Every coach is going to say that. But we want to compete every night. Too many nights last year, we just, whether it be lack of goaltending, we really took a turn for the worse when Colton Ellis was shut down for the year. I mean, Ellie, I thought, was really coming along and playing very well. And, we struggled in, the goaltending. I mean, there was, if you go back on the stats, guys, I mean, every night we outshot teams 2-1, but we had to score 4 goals to win. And we didn't have the manpower, or we didn't have the firepower to do that overall. And so we've got to be better structurally, defensively, probably. Good goaltending obviously goes a long way for that. But I think what we missed last season, that we probably had the season prior to that, when we had the good season and played Utah in the first round of the playoffs, where we were much more balanced. Like from the first to the first player to the 10th player as far as the forwards went, we had a good core of 6 defensemen that we could really rely on. Last year we didn't, and that it showed night after night that we didn't get the secondary scoring that we needed consistently enough. I mean, we had to rely on Bertuzzi and Sheriff and Golod when Maxey was here. If those guys, I mean, McLaughlin you can throw in there, but after that it was, we really struggled. Poley brought in, Tyler Polson brought some of that, but again, it's what they were surrounded with, and what we could make make do with almost. And if you didn't have Bertuzzi and Sheriff getting on the game sheet on any given night, we were in tough. You know what I mean? So I think that overall we're striving to be a team that, I hate to keep using Idaho as an example, but you would pre-scout these guys and you would look at their roster and you couldn't determine what was the first line and what was the third line. I mean, that's how deep they were. And that's, as coaches, is what we're striving for, is to have that group of players this year where a player that might have been a first line player last year might end up on the third line this year, but that's okay, because that third line will be expected to do as much as the first line. And if you can have three lines and expect all of them to produce, that'll be great. Obviously, as a coach, it'd be fantastic. Whether we can do that or not, and hopefully we can. And I think, once again, on paper, I think we've put it together a group, with the Bertuzzis and the Sheriffs and Polsons and these guys coming back. Eddie Matsushima has signed an American League deal with San Diego, but if he doesn't stick in San Diego, Eddie will be back, and there's a great piece. And then, you're looking at our decor, with our the guys that we have. And when you look at what we had last season and the year before, and it's you don't know what you have till it's gone type deal. But Dougie Legrone was an absolute rock for us 2 years ago. Dougie decided to go to Europe last year. He wanted to experience what it was like to play over there and get his, that experience. He's got his experience. Now he wants to play here again. And there's a good example of a guy that we could say 20, 30 games in. At training camp, it was like, well, we can replace him. 20, 30 games in, you're like, God would like to have Dougie back, And so there's a name of a guy that, coming back, that's going to help, once again, the core of guys that we have. And I don't want to overstep my bounds of who we signed, because it hasn't been announced yet. That core of defense is where we were, I think, even our ECHL contracts, that's not including the potential of three guys from San Diego coming, which by all rights should be all really good players, or solid defensemen. So building a roster, it's, you can always go from experience and look at what worked, what didn't work. One of the things last year, we had guys 2 years ago that honestly overachieved, I think. Like Eddie had a fantastic year. Jimmy Soper was good. Jack DeRemus was really good. Alex Gilmore was really good. Logan Coombs at times, I know I ended up trading for Jackson Leaf, but he brought a lot to our team. Last year, Eddie kind of, he made steps, and he got, I don't want to say better, but was just as good as he was, and better than he was his rookie year. Jack DeRemus doesn't come back. Alex Gilmore struggled, did not have the year that he did. Daniel Manella, not even close to the season that he had as a rookie. So a lot of these guys that had spectacular years, Jimmy Soper eventually, due to asking for a trade, no longer with our team anymore. But these guys made the difference 2 years ago, to which they didn't follow up, you call it the sophomore jinx or whatever, weren't as good. And save Eddie Matsushima. Eddie was better. But when you're going, this time last year, our optimism was the fact that the season that DeRemus had, the season that Gilmore had, the season that Soper had, that Manella had, that they're just going to get better. We took a step back. And when those voids were not filled, and we weren't able to replace that magic that we had out of these guys their first year, it made for a long season. And so, Gilmore's gone, DeRemus is gone, Soper's gone. I mean, it's time to rebuild, and when I say rebuild, it's not like your rebuild that's going to take 10 years to be a competitive team. We need to rebuild today. And I think we've done that with a guy like Ryan Olsen. There's a few guys that we've signed that haven't been announced that are top end players that I think that will be really good for our room, and it's a more experienced team. We don't have many rookies coming in like that will be deemed as rookies. The worst we've got is second year guys, and so I think that's gonna be a big advantage for us, where we've got more experience this season than we did last season.
I think to that point, one phrase that I think you could really emphasize, with this team this year, as well as, the affiliation with Anaheim, is just internal compete. Of course, you're competing, for a championship every year at every level, but the internal compete in particular, I'll paraphrase sort of a little bit of what GM Pat Verbeek in Anaheim had mentioned to the media, is it is kind of that coming of age moment for a lot of guys in this affiliation. It's no longer they're in the shadows. It's their time to, kind of make or break in a sense. But in that same vein, he mentions how he wants that process to speed up, but he's going to be a GM that's patient, and he recognizes that guys develop at different rates. And, where does that sort of fall on your side of the puzzle as well? Being a patient coach with certain guys, also maybe getting more affiliated help to, spark some ECHL contracted guys to have seasons like they're used to having as well. One of the more profound, I think, quotes that you've said in some of our pregame interviews, at the same time, you don't have time sometimes to let guys, soak up spots in the lineup that are going to be minuses and unproductive. Where's that balance, not only with affiliated guys, but with your ECHL contracted guys?
Well, with the start of your question, you said, the internal competition. I mean, that is what we are hoping for, is that, where guys were here because they were here last year, and there wasn't the opportunity through trade or anything like that, where we weren't able to make strides as far as now the Bertuzzi trade. Bert obviously was great. I mean, and I think do we win that trade? It's a two different type of players, but Bert came in and he was, he was a bright spot for us last year. But the internal competition that you're talking about, and we see that because, yes, we're looking at a couple names, not to name names, but we're like, it's going to be tough for this guy to make the team this year. Be it the defensive core or the forward core. Like, if you get the guys that are expected to come down from Anaheim and San Diego, kind of beating a dead horse here, but then that obviously, there's a couple of guys that you're looking at that, if without the help from the affiliate, yes, they're here, but now it's going to be we're going to get. Once the cuts are made in San Diego, there's going to be a lot of guys looking over their shoulder and saying, oh boy, I'm kind of on the outside looking in right now. And these guys, some of these guys are probably guys that figure they're solid. You know what I mean? So training camp's going to be imperative for us this year to really kind of sort out, what we need. What type of player do we need to, we need scores, obviously, but we need some toughness. We need, all the components that go into a good team, and we'll make that decision going forward. But even some of the guys that are coming in on tryouts this year, I'm very excited to see what they bring and if they can win a spot on this team. And we are, once again, we don't have a leg to stand on because our season was so poor last season that this is the only way we can look at it. Like, everybody that shows up at training camp is fighting for a spot, and if we go with that mentality and not necessarily convey that to the players, I think they'll be smart enough to see it real quick that is going to, yes, elevate their play whether it be game to game, where I'm not going to be that guy that's taken out of the lineup, or I'm not the guy that's going to be put up on the trade block, or I'm not the guy that's getting released. Like that's the type of competition we need for individuals to have that mentality that I'm sticking around. Like I want to be on this team. Your point about what Pat Verbeek said, and I agree with what he's saying, because Anaheim now is, I don't know. I mean, geez, it's like a 7-year rebuild already. You know what I mean? And they've got some good pieces, but I think his I saw the same interview that you did, and I think his message is like, we got to start we got to start getting better at some point. You know what I mean? And it's now. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we are quote unquote in still a rebuild, yet we've got all these, we got a Zegras, we're running out of time with Gibson. I mean, like there's a goaltender that's been, with that team forever. That's one of the best in the NHL. They bring in Gudas and a couple of good free agents that I think are good additions. Some nice, like Draisaitl and a couple of the defensemen that they've got that are ready to make the next step. McTavish and I mentioned Zegras. Like, they've got pieces, but now it's almost like time like to kind of take that mentality. Oh well, we're the Anaheim Ducks. We're in a rebuild. Don't surprise people.
I think they're a spotlight team this year.
Yes.
In that regard.
And so you got Theo Carlson, or Leo Carlson, sorry, their first round pick this year, second overall. I saw him at rookie camp. He's legit. Where as a young guy he fits in, but that's the thing. Like, do they have what do they call it, a generational player? Can Zegras be that guy? Maybe. But is he a Crosby? Is he a Lemieux? Is he a Gretzky? No, maybe not. But you get enough of those guys that then the team should be able to compete on every given night. And I think that's what Pat Verbeek is trying to get across to these guys subtly a little bit. It's like, no, we're not just toiling around. We want to make a statement. We want to start to be competitive and fight for a playoff spot and start moving up. You know what I mean? And he said, there's patience involved, yet they have the luxury at the NHL level to potentially be that way. Okay? ECHL, there's no such thing as a rebuild. You know what I mean? Like, I can't go to our fan base and say, you know what, we're really, we're going to struggle this year, but we'll be better next year. No, like, it's today. Like, it's every day once the season starts. Like that's our mission here, is that, yeah, you know what, we didn't have a good season last year. We had a good season the year before. Like, the consistency has to be better, obviously, but like, this is where at our level, it's what can you do for me today? What can you do for me now? And our sole purpose this year for rebuilding this team is a rebuild to be better, not rebuilding so that we can be better 2 or 3 years down the road. And so that in a nutshell is hopefully what we've been able to accomplish.
Just a few more questions here, and you talked about guys coming back and maybe not performing. You can't count your eggs before they hatch. Just because a guy scored 30 goals one season doesn't mean he's going to do it the next year. And you have exit interviews when you're talking to players before they leave and talking about the plans for the next season. And with guys that you're bringing back, we've talked about it with specific players in the past. Maybe Gola talking about shooting more. Is there kind of any maybe homework that you've given out, or just when you're having those conversations with players, like, hey, you're doing well for us in this X, Y, and Z, but I mean, if you can figure this part of your game out, you have a real potential to play at the next level. Are those conversations kind of something you've had over the summer with some guys that are coming back?
Yes, and I would go to the word consistency. Like, there's some nights where a player will really impress you, and then not so much the next night. And then maybe it takes 2 or 3 games to recapture what he did 3 games prior to. And so we've asked these guys, or one of our messages was that, you got to bring it every night. I know the season's long, the travel's tough, 3 and 3 nights, sometimes 4 games and 5 nights, and I understand that. I respect the fact that it's a tough grind, but there's got to be a certain level of consistency where, we can sit back after a game on Friday night and say, wow, so and so was so good. Like he was physical, he got in on the forecheck, he made some good plays, and then be in the same position Saturday night after the game and go, did he even play tonight? Like that's unacceptable. And that's the type of thing that I think as a group, the pressure might not be put on individuals as much if we can be a more complete team this season and allow guys. I'm not giving them the night, to have the night off, but it's where the consistency level. Yeah, you might not be able to match what you did one night. It's just the way of the world, the way of the game. Like, you can't necessarily be as good maybe one night as you are the next. But the drop off that we saw in a few players where it was remarkable. You know what I mean? There was some nights where we're just like, I look at that one of the last series that we had when we were in Maine. Like, that first night, we were unbelievable. Second night, probably 2 periods we were unbelievable. Third game, 1 period, and then we just got absolutely kicked, in the second and third period. But where was Friday night? Like, yes, the other team's going to kind of match up a bit better and realize what we're doing. That's causing them to have troubles and stuff. But that's systematic play. But for us to kind of start as well as we did on that Friday night or whatever weekend it was, and then just kind of tail off as the whole weekend went along, as individuals, as a team. And so that's a good example of where we got to be better consistently as a team and as individuals.
Yeah, I think a good point to that is, of course, the conditioning of players as they go throughout a season. You see it with rookies, of course, at the ECHL level, because a lot of guys come from the college ranks right out of the gate. They're all of a sudden, by not even mid-season, they played more games than they played maybe their entire college career sometimes, if they're an every-night guy. And so I look at that, and I look at training camp, and I go back to what Greg Cronin said at camp is he goes, I don't really know the condition of these guys yet. And it seems to be universal, right? Whether it be the NHL, AHL, or ECHL, you got to figure out what these guys have been doing all summer long. And, there's no babysitting, at the professional level. You get a chance to see that here upcoming. And, I think of guys that maybe have a lot of finesse. Say, of course, last year we looked at a guy like Dante Sheriff, did a lot of things right, held onto the puck maybe a little bit too often on some occasions. But players learn as they go, and they learn to play even more physical. We look at Kyler Wall as well, using his body a lot. Of course, assistant coach Scott Duttard had mentioned a little bit about that. And, where is the conditioning, play into evaluating a guy right out of the gate, whether it be in training camp or maybe just a college edition in midseason?
Conditioning is huge. And it, like, the expectation of today's professional hockey player is that you don't come to training camp to get in shape. You come to training camp in shape. You can use some examples. We had a returning veteran last year that was so out of shape he couldn't compete anymore. He just couldn't he couldn't keep up on the ice, and it was due to the fact that he really didn't do anything all summer. And you don't have to be an expert of conditioning. You don't have to be a fitness instructor to look at some of these guys' body composition. Now, I'm at liberty to, or not liberty, but I have the ability to see these guys in the locker room, right? And the eye test sometimes tells you what he didn't do in the summertime.
Sure.
Then you get Eddie Matsushima, who lives and breathes 24/7 conditioning, nutrition, taking care of his body, being and I don't have to tell you, the one guy I'm talking about couldn't last 20 seconds on the ice. Eddie, I couldn't get off after a minute and a half.
Sure.
Like, because he could go just as hard at the minute mark than he could when he first stepped on the ice. So the player himself is putting himself at a disadvantage to allow himself to compete if he doesn't come in shape. Yes, we'll do, training camp. That's what it is for. Like, there's a certain level of conditioning that you might not get in the summertime. And a lot of it is the body contact, the fighting through some guy in front of you and working your way out of corners and whatnot, where that really doesn't get done so much in the summertime, and that's on ice type conditioning. And we'll take care of that, but you got to put yourself in a position to where maybe some practices might be taxing, but it's not killing you. And so, we don't need guys puking over the boards.
Not a John Tortorella type of training camp.
Well, Torts is a little extreme, but that's not our purpose, is to have guys, getting sick and stuff like that, which we've had in the past, and I've seen it throughout my whole career. But it is, the onus is on the player. You know what? This is your job, and your job isn't from September 21st to whenever the season is ended. You know what I mean? It is when you go home in the summertime. I'm a big advocate of rest. Like, I mean, I tell these guys, like, don't go home and just start skating again and getting in the gym and let your body recover. It's been a long season, a lot of bumps and bruises, and it takes a large toll on your body. Take your time to relax, but I mean, you can't. It's not a 2-month relaxation. Like, I'm talking maybe 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, just let your body recover. So what I just said, it's their responsibility as professional hockey players who are getting paid to play the game they love, to make sure that they're putting themselves in the best position to compete once they step on the ice.
Not, I guess, my question, but this will be the last question I ask, unless Luke's got something up his sleeve as well. But this is from...
He's got a short sleeve.
This comes from Jeremy Wentworth, and he plays in the Tulsa Adult Hockey League. Of course, we've got the Co-Ed League, the Women's League as well. You've played professionally, you've coached professionally, spent a lot of time in the penalty box as a player, but now also
and I've played in that league too.
You played in that league, and now some reffing.
Now I ref that league, yes.
Yes, reffing. So what's your experience been like refereeing this summer, and what's it kind of like to be in the stripes?
I guess go back to his question.
Yeah,
first.
The question is essentially, what was your experience been like refereeing? What's it like being, I guess, in the stripes this time, and not behind the bench or on the ice in a player role?
It was fun. How actually we got when my boys were here this summer, and they asked me if there was any way to get into reffing, like to make some extra bucks. So I got in touch with Chip, and he's like, oh yeah, we're always looking for refs. So it wasn't like a tryout or anything like that. He just signed up, and so Zachary, my oldest, he did a lot of games. Like and Brendan did not as many, and then I probably did the least out of the three of us. But it was fun. I really enjoy it. It did give me a chance to be on the other side of it. I tend to have a short fuse. So when I'm the one yelling at a ref, and he doesn't have the capability to take it, I'm like, come on, don't be so sensitive. And I found multiple times where, especially doing some of the just the learn to play, and come on, ref, and I'm just like my blood starts to boil a little bit, but it was fun. And I'm gonna start. I was actually looking at the schedule last night. I got get going again here now that I'm back in town. But it's kind of cool. Like, and it's funny because you at the men's league or at the adult league level, you are both linesman and referee, right? So I would find myself watching the game as I'm working the game, and then remind myself, oh yeah, I'm supposed to call penalties, right? And there's quite honestly, there's not many penalties to be called. You call the ones that you really have to, and icings, and you drop a puck, and but it's fun. I often thought when I was a player later in my career that that's something I would have liked to gotten into. The opportunity wasn't there for former players as much as it is now. Former players are actually, for the most part, I mean, if they're decent at being a ref, they're fast tracked pretty quick to the higher levels. So that wasn't there for when I retired from playing. So, but it's fun. Make a couple bucks. I mean, it actually pays decently. I mean, if you're looking at an hourly wage. So it's fun, and I'm around the guys. I'm joking. I mean, there's a lot of kidding around and stuff like that goes on the ice, but I got to remember too, because I've always felt that being a referee, it always seems to me like it's us versus them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But you're there as a referee, especially in the adult leagues, is to obviously referee the game, but make it an enjoyable experience for the players, and let them have fun and let them play. Like it's if you're calling penalties the whole night, then it's no fun for anybody. Right. So I tend to be a little bit lenient on the penalties, and but it was fun, and like I said, I'm gonna start doing it when our schedule allows it this season at the OIC, and then hopefully at Wee Street at one point or another.
Yeah, I was going to mention there's going to be a ton of new opportunities for all kinds of men's league roles, women's league roles, of course, at the new Wee Street Ice Center. But we've got a ton of content we'll be able to get to a little bit closer to training camp. Of course, a lot of questions still from fans that we'll be able to answer. But I was just going to say a great win at home for your Cincinnati Bengals last night.
I know. I went to bed, too. I went to bed. It was a horrible game. Well, I think it was 9-6 at the time when I went to
None of the primetime Thursday or Monday games have been
very
good this year.
Been
so
brutal.
The script is not being written well.
No, my Bengals, they finally got their first win. They had, that was, it's amazing, right? Like, where they play 16 games, and if you go 0-3, you're done.
Yeah,
and
it's tough.
So they had to win last night. That was a must win, and they got it done. I like their uniforms. That was cool.
Yeah,
but
that's like equivalent to like an 0-15 and hockey, just about 10.
So my Bengals. So I don't know whether they're a Super Bowl contender this year as far as the way they're playing right now, but missed the finals, or I didn't watch the whole game.
Well, we'll have to keep tabs on that throughout the season here, but of course we're getting ready to roll with our own season coming up, and I think that's the first episode in the books.
Yeah, like I've been around, I didn't leave the country or anything like that.
It just appears opening night October 28th.
Right,
so.
exactly.
Yeah.
And next time we should do a video one so that you can. So next time if we do a video one, you can brush your hair.
Yeah, I get a haircut today, so maybe getting the mop pulled back a little bit. It's not going to help, but
no, it's not.
It's not going to help.
We'll see.
All right. Well,
that's all October 28th.
Yeah. Thanks as always for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
You bet, guys. Thank you.